Hi friends, welcome back to another video. Welcome if you're new. Today I want to show you guys how I make these mini journals that I use every month to do daily illustrations or kind of just jot down ideas. I am going to make one smaller than this today, but I'm going to kind of show you how I go through constructing it. Another thing that I sometimes do, I'll wait to bind it until the end of the month just because I like to have the sheets to put in my scanner for collage sheets and that sort of a thing. But I'm going to show you start to finish how to bind a mini book today. Alright, so let's go through the things that you're going to need to get started. You're going to need whatever kind of paper that you want to make your book out of. I'm going to use some 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, as well as some book pages. You're going to want a ruler, a pencil. You're going to want some type of thread to bind your book together. I like to use this wax jewelry thread. You can get it at any craft store. You're also going to need a piece of thin cardboard or chipboard for your cover. This is just a scrap piece of packaging. You're also going to need something to poke the holes for your stitches along the binding, or a needle to thread your binding thread. You don't need a bone folder, but I recommend one. You could also use like the back of a paintbrush to smooth out the edges of your sheets when you're folding. And also not required but very helpful is a paper cutter. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to decide how big you want your book to be. So I know that I want mine really small, actually, so I'm going to do 2.5 inches wide by 3 inches tall. So when I cut my pages, so when you fold it, that you have a page on each side, you want to double the width size of your pages. So I'm going to cut mine 5 inches by 3 inches. So 5 inches by 3 inches, so that when I fold it, this watercolor paper doesn't fold very nicely, but that's okay. So that when I fold it in half, now my book is 2.5 inches by 3 inches. So when I fold it in half, I now have 4 pages to work with. So I already have my watercolor paper cut. I'm just gonna cut a few pieces of this book paper. I think I only need 4 little mini pages. And for books that I use to cut up, I just go to the thrift store and find a book that I like the feel of the pages, I like the size of the pages. Alright, try to get this in here so you can see. So I kind of want the words to kind of still be upright. So I know that I want to do my pages 5 inches wide. And I kind of want to cut off this blank piece because I want a lot of the words to show in my book. Okay, so now I will cut to the 3-inch mark. That's one piece. to the 3-inch mark. That's 2. This isn't wide enough, so I'm going to grab another piece. And we're going to go to the 5-inch mark again. I'm going to cut off this excess again. To the 3 mark. And to the 3 mark. There are several ways to bind your books. This one is just very simple, not much skill involved in this one. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to fold all of my pages in half and smush it down with a good crease. And just to show you that you don't have to have a bone folder, I'm going to show you using something else. So I just fold it in half, take the edge of something, and just crease it. Oh, this page has a little, I didn't want to waste the piece of paper, so I still used it. And I could do the whole thing with watercolor paper, but I wouldn't necessarily bind it this way because it might be very hard to close. So this is a good option if you're using thinner papers like drawing paper, book pages, colored pencil paper, marker paper, that sort of a thing. If I'm doing all watercolor paper, I usually use a different binding technique. Alright, and then I'm going to nest my pages together how I want them. I think I'm going to do every other with the watercolor paper and the book paper. Just to kind of see. Okay. And then you have your book. You can either leave this unnested edge here like this, or this would be an extra step you could take. You're going to need a cutting mat. You're going to want to make sure these are really nested in there. I like to take a clip to hold them together. You're going to need an X-Acto knife and your ruler. And you're going to put your ruler at the edge, and you're slowly going to cut layers away until you have a flat edge. That clip is too bulky for this. Just make sure to hold your ruler tight. I need a new blade on my knife. and that would give you a clean edge. But like I said, you don't have to do that. I sometimes do it, I sometimes don't. It depends how bulky the edges look. All right, so we also need to figure out our cover. So for the cover, I like to add 1 to 2 millimeters longer than my actual book pages. So since this is 2.5, but you have to multiply it times 2 because you fold it in half. So I'm gonna go to the 2.5 plus 1 millimeter plus 2 millimeters for each side. So that would work out to, like, if you wanted to do the whole piece, so you're going to go 5 plus the 2 plus the 2. So it's going to give you 5.25. And then on this side, you're going to want to add your 2 on that side, and then your 2 on this side. So it's going to give you 3.25. Hopefully that made sense. Who knew you needed math to do art? Alright, so I'm just going to cut down my chipboard here. There we go, I want this like this. So we said 5.25. And we said 3.25. All right, there's our cover piece. You can paint this, you can cover it with scrapbook paper, whatever you want to do, or you can wait to collage it when you actually put it on your book. So since I want this nice chipboard side on the inside because I plan to collage the outside, I'm going to put this patterned piece on the outside. So these can be kind of tricky to bend. Thicker the cardboard, the harder. As you can see, the edge doesn't look so pretty. That's why I like to collage them. Okay, see how this fits. So when you center it, because you went over on each side, your pages will nestle inside, just like that. All right, so now we need to start making our binding holes. So I like to go to the center, which would be, so 1.5 plus 2 millimeters is right there. So I like to go to the center and I put a big dot there. And then from the center, I just go out 1 inch each way. Like that. Then you're going to take your awl. Be careful not to have your fingers behind the hole. And you're going to poke your holes where you marked. And then you have your holes. And then you're going to do the same thing with each piece of paper that you have here. what I like to do is I like to take one of my thick pieces of paper, mark my center, which is 1.5, and then from there I'm going to go out 1 inch, and I'm going to go out 1 inch. And with my thick piece of paper, I like to make a template so I don't have to keep using my ruler every time. Alright, now I got my holes marked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few pieces of this paper, put this on the inside, make sure they're nestled together really good. And I'm going to use my pencil to mark those holes. And I'm just going to use my awl. There you go. And I'm going to repeat that till I do all of my papers. Make sure they're nice and nested together. Stack here. You see how the holes here line up with the holes here perfectly. So now for your binding. Where's my favorite needle? So you're going to get your needle. And your thread that you've chosen for your binding. And I like to measure 1, 2, 3, a little bit over my book. So I'm just going to leave a little tail like that. So now it's up to you if you want your knot at the end to be on the outside or in the middle of your book. I personally like it in the middle of my book, so I'm just going to show you how I do that. So I'm going to start with putting the thread through all the middle holes of my book. Alright, so now I've got it all through my middle holes. I'm going to pull it through. You're going to want to leave a tail so that you can tie. Then I'm going to come to the top and go through all of those holes. And just work with your pages slowly. make sure that you get all your pages through the proper holes. Alright, so now I've got those all the way through. Check your tail, make sure that's going to be long enough, and pull through. So now you've got one stitch done. Then you're going to go back through this middle hole. Hold your tail. Then you're going to go to this bottom hole. Again, slowly work your pages. Kind of have to work with it a little bit. It can be hard to get through sometimes. Alright, so now I've got that through there. I'm going to pull tight, pull tight. Then what I'm going to do is where I have this first stitch, I'm going to take my needle and go under that one. And I'm going to pull that tight, pull the tail tight. So now I have it like this. I'll take my needle off, and now you can tie your knot. And the good thing about the wax thread is it will hold it tight, so you're not constantly having to retighten everything. I usually do 2 knots there. Then I'm going to trim my threads, flatten that out, and now you have your little book. If it stays open like this, what I like to do is I'll take clips for a couple of days and just put them on the binding there. Like that, and after a couple of days it'll kind of get the clue that it needs to stay shut. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial how to make a mini journal, and I hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.